isn't it interesting that as a society, you've created an entity called government that has a life of its own, that has a consciousness of its own, that in effect you have created from yourselves a different entity. That's kind of fascinating in its own way, wouldn't you say? Whose main interest, of course, is to take care of itself. Now, the players change in government, but government itself never changes. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Well, it shifts. I don't believe in never.
Okay.
It shifts.
Why do you think, why do you see the shift? What shift takes place?
Well, when people choose differently, like in the examples of Egypt, where they choose government change,
Right?
then it's possible to shift. There's still a government.
Changing to a similar version of the same thing.
So your perspective is a similar version of the same thing, where
That's not my perspective of where I'd like to go. Is it your perspective of what it is? Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would disagree with you, dear Angela. We would suggest that really governments never change. Their whole purpose is to govern.
Okay.
Their whole purpose is to be the big brother. Their whole purpose is to be the one that tells you what to do. You created this entity called government in order to tell you what to do.
Oh, so as long as we have a government, it's by its nature disempowering. It's by your definition.
Very much.
So there's no such thing as an empowering government.
No. You take a look at Egypt. Oh yes, they've changed the players within the government. They've gotten rid of what they called a dictator, and they're replacing it with what they hopefully perceive to be an elected government, though it's not there yet. But regardless of what they do, they're still going to, in effect, create a government that will tell them what to do. You see?
Okay.
So the nature of government never changes.
Okay, I see that. I see where you're coming from.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, regardless, it's like yourself, for example. You'd like to believe that you can change. We would encourage that belief, but until you recognize that to change you must change your nature, well then you're just, in effect, changing the outer framework. Do you see?
Oh. Basically the nature to empower myself.
The nature of yourself. Not just the nature to empower, but the nature of yourself. Your very nature.
Which is what?
Well, that's what we've explored in previous workshops, have we not?
Oh, I mean like originality.
So, governments by themselves never change. The direction? Sometimes even the application of government changes. But the nature of government never does. And it won't be until society creates a new form of itself will the nature of government change.
Oh, so if the nature of government became not of a disempowering, I'll tell you what to do, almost like it sounds like government is a
The only
dictator.
way that can happen is if society, the people in society, empower themselves. Once they empower themselves, then the government, the nature of government will change.
To just support a more supportive role.
Supportive, a role of guidance. Do you see?
Right. To allow.
Because really, once you're in an individual society itself, all members of society are empowered, then you don't need someone to take care of you.
So it would almost be to allow just for freedom of individuals.
Wouldn't it?
Rather than having laws, it'd be almost the opposite, is to actually allow and encourage everyone to be free.
It would be through guidance, yes. Strictly guidance.
similar to what you do with everyone.
Exactly, and what we've basically in the past alluded to in regards to corporations, in regards to the hub partnership, in regards to all kinds of things. You see?
So all these organizations, whether it be government or anything, yourselves, they'd all be just their support to help individuals or the whole society be more conscious and free.
How could they be more conscious and free?
Or just to be conscious and free.
How could they be? No, it would be simply to provide guidance to choices. Individuals, once they are empowered, are conscious. They are free. So it's not that, in effect, you're asking government for freedom.
Right.
At that point, government is strictly there to guide, to provide guidance for, call it long-term choices, for movement.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions from the audience, dear Maggie? Any comments on this at this stage?
Yes. Currently, humanity sees democracy as the most evolved form of government. What, from the Wonders' perspective, is the most evolved form of government we could create?
Exactly what we've just said.
Okay. What would it look like?
Exactly what we've just said. We've dealt with that.
Yeah.
Now, what we're looking for is any comments in regards to what we've just discussed here. Because really, dear friends, we know that there's a time lag here between the webcast and ourselves. Actually, there's no time lag between ourselves and the webcast. There's time lag between these words spoken and the webcast. There is a difference.
What role will the Wonders take in public affairs over the next 25 years?
We're not going to take any role. This isn't for us to tell you what to do. No, what we're saying here is that, and Angela, you're quite correct, once individuals choose to empower themselves, then your form of government will change. But government can never change and will never change as long as that doesn't occur. You see? So now, let's explore that for a moment. What movement can society, can governments, can people, can individuals encourage in order to bring this about? Of course, the movement is self-empowerment, isn't it?
Yes.
It's fairly easy, that. So take a look around you in society. Take a look around in your society. Do you see, other than the odd individual that is looking to assist others to empower themselves, do you see much movement towards empowerment? Or do you see more movements towards understanding, solving puzzles, discovery, towards change, but change without empowerment?
The latter. The reality is I do see more of the latter.
Okay. So then, the only way that anything will change is if that shifts. Given that, then, what do you see as the probability over the next 25, 50, 75, 100 years of society really moving away from government?
I don't see a high probability of that.
No, neither do we, by the way.
There is more of a probability now that the government control seems to be breaking down. And
you think it's breaking down? Where it's breaking down in one part, it's actually increasing in other parts. Your democratic countries that have elected governments, the governments are becoming more and more controlling. The illusion that is taking place, and this is fascinating actually, if you think of it from this perspective, there is an illusion in your society that you are, in effect, free, especially in democratic society. True in Egypt, Iran, Iraq, they know they're not free. However, Americans, Canadians, most Europeans believe that in the countries that they live in, they are free. Oh, they have laws, but overall they're free. They're free to express themselves. In the United States, there's the American Constitution that enshrines certain unalienable rights. The right to express yourself, the freedom of expression, etc., etc. And yet, even though they have a constitution that in effect, a document that is the guide for society itself, in which that freedom is enshrined, the actual practical application of their society is that no one is really free. They are only free under certain circumstances, approved situations. In Europe, in Canada, in the United States, in most countries that have democratically elected governments, the rights of the individual are given by government, not chosen by people. The American Constitution is a great document. It was originally designed to provide a framework upon which people, societies, states could come together and, without a great deal of change, govern themselves. Having said that, it was originally intended as a benevolent document, but it's become a malevolent document because, in actual fact, the American Constitution, at this point, through the application of it, through the very document of it, is a document that governs people, not guides people. And as a result of that, the Americans have formed a government, an entity, to tell them what to do. And they do it. Oh, they fight against it. There's the Democrats that see it one way. There's the Republicans that see it the other way. And there's the right wings, the left wings, the center wings. There's the up wing, the down wing. But really, no matter how much they fight against the government, they have never truly chosen to be guided. They've chosen to be governed. And that, dear friends, is the malevolency of the American Constitution, of democracy in the world. Democracy, as you know it, is an institution of government. And because it's an institution of government, it is by its nature disempowering to the individuals. Now, it'll be argued by many individuals that without democracy, without government, society would be an anarchistic, free society in which individuals could choose to do anything they wanted to harm themselves. They need government to tell them not to harm themselves. They need government to tell them what to do. After all, doesn't a child need a parent? But in actual fact, the very essence, the very existence of government ensures that individuals within society will never, ever choose to empower themselves sufficiently to not need to be told what to do.
Sorry, did you say never ever?
Yes. The only way that your society will change is when individuals get rid of government. Now, as we said, what's the point of doing what Egypt and everybody else is doing, which is getting rid of one government in order to get another? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting rid of the idea of government, getting rid of the institution of government, getting rid of the concept that government is necessary. Then society, individuals, as they empower themselves, can choose not government, but guidance.
Okay.
Now, this will never occur at this stage, certainly not within the next 400 years, we can assure you of that, because people, individuals such as yourselves, are too afraid to empower themselves and therefore make their own choices. They're too afraid. Look at the difficulty each and every one of you has with regards to simply empowering yourselves and living based on the defining statements of existence, using those as a guide. The defining statements of existence are not a guide. They do define existence, but you could use them as a guide as well. And look at the difficulty you're having yourselves. Just yourselves. You who have studied with us now for many years, look at the difficulty you have, and yet you would expect that within the next 25, 50, 100 years, somehow society will change? No. You are bound to government. The only question now is, over the next 400 years, what form will government take? Not whether government will exist, but what form will it take? And that's the exploration we suggest you do in the next session.
Is what form it will take over the next 400 years.
Yes, what form will government take? Will it be this benevolent? Will it be malevolent? Will it be democratic? Will it be communist? Will it be socialist? Will it be fascist? Will it be a dictatorship? What form will government take? And, in addition to that, government within different countries, within different regions of the world. You have different governments in different regions right now. In the Americas, and, well, at least North America and Europe, you have a lot of democratically elected governments, even some of South America. In other parts of South America and in the Middle East and Africa, you've got dictatorships. In other parts, you've got socialist governments. China, Russia, even India, socialist governments. Do you see? So when you're looking at these forms of government, which form of government will become more prominent over the next 100, 200, 300, 400 years? There's the question for you to ask yourself, to explore.
Perhaps it's the optimist in me, but you've also asked us to look beyond the 400 years as well, and so you're saying in the, I guess, millennium or two, we would then choose to empower ourselves to an extent.
There is going to be a movement towards empowerment. We agree with that.
Yes.
Individuals will continue to choose eventually to empower themselves.
And then...
But it's an eventuality.
Okay.
So let's take a millennia. Here you go. You're at the beginning of this particular century, this particular millennia. So by the year 3000, what will government look like? Well, there is a probability, not large at this stage, that government will become more of a guidance than a government. In other words, government will no longer exist. Probability exists. But it isn't rather large. And we would encourage you not to think in terms of millennia at this point. For as much as that's interesting to the mind, really, there's many, many steps that have to take place between now and then.
Okay, so baby steps.
Yes, look at yourselves. As we said, you value, you create government. You value its existence. In fact, you demand its existence and ensure its existence.
Well, we pay taxes.
Not just taxes. You demand it in the form of ceremony. You demand it in the form of its existence, its very fabric. You want someone to tell you what to do. You need someone to organize the things you're not willing to yourself think about organizing. You need someone to build roads. You need someone to decide on the way the structure of the cities will take place. You need someone to take care of the water resources. You need someone to take care of natural resources. You need someone to set the tone for, in Canada, health care. You need someone to take care of your health. You need someone to take care of your response to the world, your interaction to the world. You're right now in Canada, you're looking at, you're playing around with certain types of ideology. So really, you can't live without government right now. So the result is, of course, you're not. Any comments from the audience, dear Maggie?
Yes.
You can interrupt anytime you see a comment
Yeah.
of a nature that is reflective of this particular conversation.
Yeah. What do we do in the meantime, since most individuals are not interested in changing their nature?
Well, the best you can do at this time is, of course, changing your own nature and becoming the example for others. We agree. There's not many individuals out there who are interested in changing their nature, but there are individuals who are. So why not connect? Why not form a commonality with these individuals? Why not connect to these individuals? Agreed, some of them won't change to the degree that you do, and some will change more than you do. But at least you're part of a commonality, a common consciousness, if you want to call it that, where you can at least interact with yourselves and discuss the movement that's taking place. And what movement are you willing to participate in? Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if you actually created a movement of commonality, formed a political party, ran in an election, formed the government, and then promptly disbanded it?
That's one way to get rid of government.
Isn't it?
The platform is to get rid of government.
No.
No, okay.
Because you would never get elected. The platform is to govern. And we're going to govern by getting rid of government. Is
That's
it?
the platform?
No. You don't tell them that.
Oh, okay.
The platform is to govern. You do after all, you play the game to get elected. But once elected, what's the best way to govern? By doing more of the same, or by choosing something totally different? Best way to govern would be to simply say, great, now government is disbanded. There's no more government. We will not govern, but we will guide. So all the institutions that form the government presently must be disbanded, and new institutions created to provide guidance. Of course, you would require individuals who truly are empowered in those institutions. Otherwise, you're just going to get the same disempowered individuals trying to form a basis of power for themselves. Why do you think you have government? Why do you think people get into government? They are disempowered individuals trying to force everyone else to recognize how powerful they are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have government. It just wouldn't exist. Is it?
What about someone who does get in government, though, and then is pushed out by the existing politicians? And
again, it's just a power game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just the same old power game. It's a disempowered individual not able to play in the same ballpark as everybody else. That's all. So really, government is nothing more than a disempowering institution.
Yeah. What will it take for society to actually begin to empower themselves?
Choice. Real, honest-to-God choice. It takes the willingness to go into the places that scare you the most. That's it. Society must be willing to look at those areas of itself as a society, as a consciousness, as a group, that scares it the most. And each country is different. Each country has its own fears. Take a look at the United States. What scares the United States the most? Really? Its loss of influence in the world? It's losing its position as number one in the world? Losing its power? The Americans are very much about power, but the illusion of power, not real empowerment. What is it that Canadians fear the most? Take a look at your society, Canadian society. What is it that you fear the most? You fear losing your health care the most.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll do anything to hold on to your health care. maybe it's time to have a discussion on it, re-examine it, rediscover what really the intent was.
Of the healthcare program?
Yes.
And to examine why we're so fearful of losing it?
Fearful, and then reframing it. Do you see? And we're not saying reframing it in the way that government would want to reframe it, which is basically attempting to control healthcare in such a way that they can minimize the expense so that the government can govern again. You see? Take healthcare completely out of the hands of government. Completely. Don't govern, guide. What if you guided? What if you used society, government as you called it, and it became a guidance rather than a government, and guided individuals towards health?
Well, that's the same concept as government in general. It would just...
Right now, your healthcare in Canada is really there to put out fires. The population is aging, people are getting sicker, and the universality of healthcare is being questioned because there's just not enough money to put out all the fires. Well, this is just going to continue, and it's going to get worse and worse until eventually the population ages and dies, and then a newer population comes, younger population, and then that population will say, well, thank God we missed that bullet. We got rid of those old farts. Good for us. However, they're going to age too. And the population after them, well, the generation after them will go through the same routine because nothing will change. But what if you changed and you had a conversation in Canada about healthcare and began to change the concept that somehow or other everything about health had to be taken care of universally? What if you took the responsibility of healthcare away from government and put it into the individual? Wouldn't that change the model that you're using for financing? Wouldn't that change the model necessary for government? But of course, that would require government to not govern, to not say what's right or wrong, good or bad, to not say what's acceptable. Do you see? And so we don't see that happening either, by the way.
Yes.
So what will happen is the whole framework of universality will either collapse or it will become so entrenched that you will actually be working for government, which you almost are right now anyways.
What do you mean? Oh, because of our taxes?
Well, yes, you'll be taxed to virtually 100% in order to supply the funding for healthcare. So the whole concept of universality was an excellent concept. Yes, let every individual have access to universality. But what's missing is government took over and said, we'll tell you how we're going to fund your health care, as opposed to saying you are responsible for your health. Is it?
And you don't see this happening in the next
Not
100 or so
There is a
years.
probability over the next 25 to 30 years that this discussion will take place. And if it does, that probability becomes more high,
Okay.
more real. You see?
Just ask the questions. If we begin a discussion now.
Exactly. A discussion must take place in which the whole concept of healthcare and the concept of government running healthcare, being in charge of it, the concept of government telling you what's acceptable to your health and not, the concept that somehow or other you are not responsible for your health, but the government is, that's the question, that's the discussion that must take place. Is it? And if that takes place, then there you create a probability, you open the probabilities, you don't create it, it's already created, but you open the probability to a drastic change in the healthcare model, not just of Canada, but of the United States and of the world, in effect. you then provide a model for other countries to follow, in which taxation is minimized, and therefore responsibility is put back on the individual. Do you see?
Yes, this sounds almost like a small baby step. I mean, I do see more people who are willing to take responsibility for their health than getting rid of government altogether, for example.
Yes, a lot of people do take some responsibility for their health. You see? They take naturopathic or homeopathic medicines. They take vitamins. They exercise. They eat good food, drinks good water. Do you see?
Yes.
Basically follow the health protocol we've suggested. Yes, that's a good step. But what if every individual was told that from today to tomorrow, what if you woke up tomorrow morning and there was a great big announcement in the newscast, newspapers, and everything else? Government no longer responsible for your health. You now must maintain health. When you get ill, when you get sick, you must now pay for it. Government no longer responsible. Government will not tax as a result of this. However, you will pay for it from a fund that the government has set up based on previous taxation and all the money that it has, in order to supply you with a lifetime, call it annuity, that you can use towards health.
Oh, almost like a small grant every year.
Not every year.
Oh.
One-time, lifetime annuity set up for you. And that can be funded on a yearly basis. But basically, you use it, you then lose it. It's as simple as that. So whatever you use, it's gone. You're responsible for your health. How you use it, we don't care. Whether you use it to take care of your health today and forget about it tomorrow, that's fine. But tomorrow, you're not going to have your health taken care of. You'll have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
But you see, that's the kind of conversation that must take place. That may not be the answer.
Right.
But that is the kind of conversation that must begin to take place.
That's take the financial incentive. At the moment, the financial incentive is for chemical companies to have more sales, and that way there'd be an
Agreed.
actual financial incentive for even people that don't believe much in the.
Oh, we agree. But don't kid yourself there,
Yeah.
Paul. What's going to happen is if the society moved to this type of model for funding of healthcare, well, then you would have a whole industry, an advertising industry, from the pharmaceutical corporations trying to convince you, con you out of your money. You need this product now in order to save for later. You see? There's going to be then new products. There's going to be a whole new industry. Ensure your future when you run out of healthcare benefits. Do you see?
Yes.
So it's not going to alter society. In fact, it'll actually bring about a new wealth in society, if you want to see it from that perspective. It'll redistribute the wealth. But until people get empowered, these industries will obviously flourish. However, the more people get empowered, the more people choose health, the more people use the model to move themselves to health, then of course government becomes the guide. Here, you can do this to help yourself get healthy. We encourage you to exercise. We encourage you to drink good organic spring water. We encourage you to eat good organic food. You see?
Yeah.
And as a result, the government becomes the guide. And eventually, that does permeate into consciousness, and the majority of society then will move in that direction, and those industries, after having flourished, will then decrease. You think?
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen over the next 25 to 75 to 100 years. This, by the way, is a necessity. This conversation on healthcare in Canada specifically, and some European countries and the Americas, this will occur. It must occur. Your society is going bankrupt right now. So this must occur. When it happens, you have a choice. Start investing yourself in the conversation.
What do you mean by going bankrupt?
Your countries are going bankrupt. You can't. You're being taxed to the point of oblivion.
Oh, you mean individuals are going bankrupt?
No, your countries are going bankrupt.
Oh, as in beginning a
Government
deficit,
spending more money than
situation.
Yes,
Okay.
you're spending more than you're taking in.
Right.
Simple as that.
So that's why that would be the catalyst for trying to save money, basically, is a catalyst.
It's yes. However, again, this is a solution to the healthcare system that the government must look at. However, it requires the government relinquish its ability or its right or its very nature. It must relinquish the nature to govern the choices on healthcare. Do you see?
At least people would listen to this solution, because right now the Americans are so afraid because they're saying they are responsible for their health care and they don't have the money to provide for themselves, and it's the opposite for Canadians. We're paying for everybody.
Right. So somewhere in between is where it belongs, right?
Yeah.
This session will end soon, dear friends.
Okay, here's a question. What is the difference between using government to make roads and using a private company to do so?
Well, again, at this point in the society, individuals in society have given their power away to the government and said, you take care of it, you build the roads, you decide where the roads are going to go, you make those decisions, you hire the companies to build the roads, you be in charge, and you tax us as individuals in order to pay for those roads. Okay? So that's government, in effect, telling you that as big brother, as family, or as government, they will tell you what's best for you, versus a guidance environment in which the guidance would be, hey, perhaps it's time to look at how to create a new road in order to expand the transit system in order to allow more people to move from point A to point B. And based on that, then it's time to look at whether or not that is a chosen way, and then who amongst you wants to invest yourselves into this framework in order to create this transit system. You see?
Mm-hmm. And there's no system to get a new party into government at the moment.
Oh, yes, there is. The party must... How do you think the Green Party came about in Canada?
Yeah.
How do you think the Communist Party came about in Canada? How do you think the... well, there was one party that tried to get in but couldn't, and that was the Weed Party.
Yeah.
But again, you need the proper signatures for enough people to do this. What it requires is a core group of individuals who have a similar belief structure. That's all.
Are there empowered
This
individuals?
session will end different.
Okay, wonders.
Yeah, keep those questions for later.
Okay.
And we do thank you. We assure you that this conversation has been very interesting. Now it needs to get out there. To you all, the appreciation of all.
Appreciation
of all
of all
wonders.
wonders. Wonders, may we move to end this session?
Please.
Please perform all healings that are chosen.
Done.
Please relax the body to its natural state now.
And to you all, the appreciation of all.
The appreciation of all wonders. I would like Renee to awake feeling completely loved now.
Whoa, came out of that session. I felt like I was, I don't know, just blowing my mind off. I came out of that session with a realization that I never want to be governed ever again. I don't want government in my life. I don't mind, putting, like insurance, putting money into a pot for the possible future, but I don't ever want government to govern. I want to be able to, in effect, get guidance from somebody. I want somebody to tell me, okay, you're fucking up here, go do something better. But really, I don't want to be told what to do. Okay, I want to be given choices. And I think that all of the people that follow the wonders really, they've all moved that. Everybody that follows the wonders eventually gets to that point. The reason they follow the wonders is because they are tired of being told what to do, and they really want to have guidance as opposed to direction. And that's it. That's what I got.
Thank you.